I think we're live. Hold on, let me check. Because I thought we were live earlier, but we weren't. Okay, actually live. I think we're live. So I'm gonna explain what today is about. But first I'm gonna explain why I'm doing what I'm doing today. So the first version, I guess, of creating EAs that I put out online, all the videos are now outdated, like heavily outdated, because the workflow has completely changed because of the MCP. So what is the MCP? It's just a way to connect Claude directly to MT5 and then get Claude to do everything. So what is everything? Like clicking the buttons, running the tests, compiling, changing the code. So you don't need to manually go copy, paste, take the compiler errors and then paste them back into GPT, which is basically all my old videos. And so I need to create new videos, or I was thinking just stream. The problem with the old videos is I was giving you everything in hindsight. In other words, I would create the expert advisor and then I'd have to go back and try to remember all the problems that I ran into and then explain like this is the problem, this is the solution, this is what I was trying to do. This time I thought let me just do a full live stream and then maybe make them into videos afterwards. So that's what this is about. And if you're watching this as a video, stay tuned, maybe skip around, look for the key areas. I do want to try putting chapters in. So you have that. If you're watching this as a live stream, engage, ask me questions. What do you want me to do? You know, those sorts of things. So that's what today is all about. And let's begin. It's going to be slow because I'm going to try to show everything. And usually these things do take time. I'm gonna also try to continue to like speak, talk about what I'm doing, and that way, full transparency, you can see everything that's going on. Okay. Meantime, before I begin, let me just see if I am getting these and that way, full. So I have this over here so I can see everything. I'm gonna put it on this. There we go. Okay, so what I have here is first prompt, and I was about to go ahead and just go for it, but then I realized let me just stream this as well. This could be very useful. And I'm still working on the prompt, but this time I'm not gonna just do it and then forget about it, I'm gonna explain the whole process, so everything that's going on, what I'm thinking of, and why I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do. So if you create an EA skill, what you end up with is a situation that you're using algorithms instead of not like the trading algorithms. You're using little sets of rules that offload reasoning or the need to have reasoning. So Fable or Opus or whatever you're using doesn't need to go and reestablish a connection every time. It can just have like an index of, okay, run this little program, and the sequence of events that follow actually will successfully do whatever it is that I want it to do, like run a backtest, open up the editor, put the EA, compile, and then run the backtest. So those are the rules, for example. And yeah, that's what's possible now. Now, the one thing that I really want to add is forward test. And if you don't know what that means, so there's an option, and you can do this manually, but I want to do it fully automatically. There's an option to do forward tests. And what a forward test is is instead of just doing one back test, so you go over here for a forward test, and you just click on yes, or I guess you choose the number, and what that means is it divides the test into 2 tests or 3 tests, okay, or 4. And so it'll take the time period and it will split it into 4, and then it will do 4 individual tests as opposed to you going manually and choosing the start and the end date for every single one of those 4, for example. It'll just do it automatically. Now what I want to do is I want to automate basically this custom one, and we'll find a way to do it so that when I do have a test that I want to run, a forward test, it won't need to be configured. I can just run a skill and then have the test go on all the periods. And I also want, hold on, I also want it to, well, I put like a 2-year period, start from the beginning of the month, and then start from the middle of the month, and start from the next month's beginning of the month, and so on and so forth. And that way you get the most variation. And then you take all those numbers from all those individual back tests, which can be easily 12, 15 tests, depending on, I guess, the time period. It can be as many as you want, really. And then find kind of like the average for every single number. Now, that's a lot of calculations, which I don't know how to do, but I know the purpose of most of the calculations, all the results that you get, and different fitness functions that you can choose, those sorts of things. So that's where the AI comes in. You can just kind of offload the work and the calculations, and it just works. It's easy. Well, it's easy if the program responds. It's got a new GPU. Maybe the driver isn't fully. No, but this uses CPU. So this is exactly what I wanted to show, is the problems that you run into when you try to do these sorts of things. And how do you diagnose them? Well, nowadays the workflow change, you can just ask Claude, really, like, what's going on, why is this happening, and then it will tell you. Let me check the task manager, and not really being drained. Oh, performance. This is the new GPU, 5060. Literally just put it on. But MQ5 uses a CPU, and CPU isn't really doing much right now, so I think I need to put SDR also. Hold on. Video output. Let me know if anyone does join now, if the colors seem washed out. That would really help me if you let me know. Yeah, I know where to do it. I need to go on the actual play and go to filters. Not filters, properties. Force SDR. Okay. Yeah. It's too bright and somebody is there. Please let me know. Also would like to know how many viewers there are. Alright, well, might as well just begin. I will figure out why this is failing. And we'll run a forward test. Alright, let me just try again first, because I did close very many of these charts. Could be as simple as that. Big data, auto. I should go on. One EA called the adaptive moving average, which one I'm currently working on. Yeah, see, that's why you want to use the MCP. It's just all this manual stuff. Might as well use Claude from the get-go and see if it will run. So I'll do this and I will say run the adaptive moving average adaptive average EA adaptive moving average EA using CP, make it a forward test using real tick data. Make it span the duration of all the available data from after time. I'm out of Fable tokens. It resets tomorrow. I'm using Opus for this. It should be fine even with Opus. I want to see if it will automatically trigger the or launch after Prime. So after Prime is my MT5, or I guess automatically launch MT5. So let's see what is being said here. I'll start by orienting the auto test project and finding this new adaptive moving average. Forget about the auto tester. Click stop. Okay, forget about the auto tester. New project coming soon later. And just run it using MCP. Okay, so that's why you want to have these algorithmic processes, because just now what happened is it was using tokens and it was doing its own reasoning. So that's exactly what I want to avoid, and that's why I want to make this skill, because what happens is you have these MD files which are really great for using their harness, like the decisions.md, the memory.md, of course the skill.md, and what will happen is it will use those decisions and those rules and those workflows that you had before to kind of dictate the direction of what you want in the future. Now, what you want in the future isn't always going to be the same as what you want in the past, and that's a problem. If you create a skill and you just say run the skill, that's like rules where it goes exactly and does exactly what you want it to do because you set those rules. So the whole point really is to get the successful outcomes that I want and then make them into rules. And then once those rules are refined, I'll open source it so that everyone can do the same thing. One thing to keep in mind is the MCP it's a beta launch of the MCP. So what that means is you need to go on MT5, go on update, like manually, go on update, and choose MCP. And I'll show you later in this video, or I guess live stream, where you can do that. Found it, weekly adaptive MA. Alright, so it found the EA that I want. It's running some commands, and it still has not launched the MT. Oh, it did launch it. Okay, so it did launch. Not sure if I chose the setting or it did, but you'll see that it's going to do it for me. So that's nice. Okay, so it just started. You see, like the stop button happened. Now, one thing that I struggled with a lot when I was creating the other EA and really just exploring, nice it ran, is it kept changing the modeling by itself. So for some reason, it just keeps going to open, high, low, close. Now, I want this every tick based on real data. It knows because I've said use every tick based on real data. But what I want to do is I want to make it so that the skill just kind of lets me very quickly, hold on, yeah, very quickly just skip that, you know, just say, all right, run it, use the skill. I'll just slash EA, run this, and then it goes and it does it completely on its own. One other thing to note, and this is part of the fact that it's just a beta launch, so maybe some things are wrong and they still haven't fixed them, is you have these situations where when you saw it run just now, I think you can go back in the video if it's a video, it did say 1-4, but what it ran was not a forward test. That's kind of what I told it to do. It's just there was a mismatch between what was visible over here and the like this setting specifically. It was still over here while it was running and you couldn't access it, versus what was actually running as a test, and the results are here. Now it sounds like it doesn't really matter, but if you're running a really long test, all of a sudden it does. Yeah, I don't know why it's just decided to run its own test. Probably Opus making executive decisions. See what happened. It's so fun with the MCP. Okay. Assess the test is running on real tick data. Let me verify. Okay, running with confirmed real ticks. Test complete. Let me pull the results. Okay, so it did that. And then it said one defect in my config MT5 takes string inputs verbatim. So the start, step, stop suffix became part of the file name. Error 5000. I don't even know what that means. This is one of those problems you just gotta figure out. So that, yeah, I don't even know if it's a problem or not. Okay. Which also zeroed on tester basket P&L. Only accrues when the CSV handle is open. The bounce path is unaffected, but let me fix and rerun to get the trade expert and the T statistics. So I think it's a data issue. It wasn't able to pull data. It doesn't know things, and then it just decided, let me run another test with different settings so I can pull that data. And potentially, it just decided to change to like open, high, low, close or something like that. Okay, this time it didn't. That's good. Good. Well, I guess it's irrelevant because we're going to be forcing it to always do the correct thing. Yeah, it ran the exact same test. Good. Alright, so now we can actually begin because this is working. But I still do want to know why that forward test didn't work, so I might be poking where I shouldn't be poking, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to I choose this and make sure everything's correct. I'm gonna click start. So what should happen is you should get 4 different tests, and it should just kind of drop automatically when it gets a fourth of the way there. What's the date? 2025, 26. I don't think it happened. Okay, it did happen. So that's what this drop off is over here. This is the first drop off. I think 1 out of 4. Yeah, that's weird because it just did 1 and a quarter or something. I'm going to try this 1, 2, see if we get a similar issue. So I know I said I'm gonna do everything automatically, I'm gonna automate it all, but in order to do that, I need to know the manual process well enough so I can actually diagnose issues as I'm creating the skill when they come up. That's why I'm just clicking on everything right now, just to make sure that there's no issues that have nothing to do with the automation that I'm making. That way I don't make the automation and then find an issue and then think that it's a problem with the automation, but really it's a problem with MT5. And then you just go down this rabbit hole that leads to nowhere, which happens when you try to make things. Okay, for some reason it's only doing half both times. So this is a problem. And I think the solution is to not use forward test and just do it by making the automation do it instead of relying on MT5 to do it. So we'll do forward testing without using this particular feature over here. We'll just always have it on no, and we'll always adjust these dates because I've had no problems with adjusting those dates. And we'll just make it so that it calculates automatically. We'll take the full duration. I don't know if calculate is the word, but determine by itself, okay, this is the first, second, third, fourth test in all of these. And I'm thinking before I do the skill file, I'm just going to tell it to do that. And if I tell it to do that and it succeeds, then I can just tell it, all right, this is something that I want you to make into a skill, as opposed to, I guess, my initial plan, which was to kind of copy paste or write the whole document and then paste it in. Okay, so that's where my head is at. I'm going to do this. I'm going to say, show you the screen. Okay, I'm going to say, all right, I want you to do forward tests without using the MT5 features for forward testing. The date range can be divided up into, let's say, 8. Go with 8. Separate, sometimes, or separate and overlapping, actually separate, overlapping time periods. So starting from the first of a month, going to the end of that month, overlaps with starting from the middle of the month, going to the middle of the subsequent month. This breaks a 1.5 month long period into 2 tests. This is what I mean by, I'm going to define, I want you to do our version of a forward test. Okay, this is what I mean by our version of a forward test. I guess I should call it walk forward test, so we're not wrong. Walk forward test. Okay. Test. Then I want you to display all the results and find the average for each result. Only the ones that matter, usually usually results of fitness functions. Okay, author. Actually, I'm not gonna go that far. I'm gonna just say quick. Let's test it out. Do our version of a forward test. Use the same EA and config I already have up across 4 months, 4.5 months. Alright, I just want to see what happens, to be honest with you. I don't know if it's gonna work. With Fable, it definitely would. That's the thing. With Opus, 50-50. Give it a 50-50 chance. Could work or not. So, yeah, I'm thinking once I get the results, if they're correct, like the results are good, and when I say good, I don't mean the EA is winning, it's possible. I mean, like, I actually got the results, the math adds up. Then we can kind of lock that in and say, this is exactly what this skill is called. I'm going to call it the EA forward or EA walk, something like that. And it'll be a sub skill of the main skill, the EA skill. And then you can just trigger EA, do a forward test, and you don't have to go choose all the sub skills. And I have that set up for a lot of skills that I actually use. Like, for example, if I do this, let's see, like this is my main skill, proof, and then there's all these other sub skills which I never manually trigger except one of them, this one, Shuf Sand. And this is basically pinch tab, so there's already a repo out there, GitHub repo, so you can just download it. It's called repository. You download it and then you install it, and you basically tell Claude, I want this, and then it gives you this, and it runs a browser and does stuff for you automatically, fully. It takes control of the internet for you. So I made my own version of it way before it came out, and I set it up this way with this index kind of. The Shuf skill, the first one, is an index for the other ones. I find that works really well. I have that for several other skills. One of them is called OV, overview, which is like map widgets. Might as well, since this is taking a while, show you what I mean. I got these. So these are some of my projects, okay? And what these kind of node icon apps are at the bottom are the OV skills. And what I can do is I can choose one of them and show you. I might as well choose this studio one. So I'll click it and you'll see what it does. It opens up like this map. So this shows me the architecture of whatever it is that I'm building. But more importantly, like aside from like the arrows and oh, it feels nice, like this is the structure. This page, the findings page, has all the problems that I run into, and then they show up as, you know, seen or unseen. And right now you can see there's not that many problems, but some of them still exist. All of them, because of this indexing thing that I'm doing, have this over here. So this is a copy pastable tab. So I don't have to type, this is the one that I'm talking about. I can just click this once, paste it into Claude and be like, all right, do this to this, you know. It just saves me a lot of time in terms of like workflow when I'm trying to get things done. And now that's where the index thing comes in that I was telling you about. Because all of these different widget apps, and I have a bunch of them for every semi-big project that I do, have these skills. I want to open source all this, by the way, but soon, once I have Fable, make sure I'm not giving away like private stuff. So these are the sub skills for the OV skill. Now I never actually, trigger OV hunt, which finds out subagents to hunt orphans or bugs. It basically looks for problems to populate the findings so that later on I can address the issues, which is really useful because if you just tell it to find the issues and solve them, it won't do a really good job. But if you just tell it to find the issues, dump them into this list, it does a much better job at finding the issues and diagnosing diagnostics really. It's like, this is exactly what the issue is. I've isolated it. And yeah, so all this, I'll do like another video about that later. But this is kind of the structure that I want for this EA skill that I'm building. I want it to be EA is the main one. You just type / EA, do this and that, and then it just delegates to whatever it is that needs to be done. All right, this seems like it worked. So here's the windows. That's a nice word, window. So I wasn't thinking that initially when I was planning it out. I didn't call it a window. Obviously, it is a window. Like it's a time window, you know. So it's a new term. I guess not really a new term, but now I know what to say. I want to say windows. Use time windows. Little things like that, because in the large language model, it's about the language, right? Little things that just, you know what they mean, but they're just not at the forefront. You're the tip of your tongue, kind of a thing, you know. Okay. All right. So this is the overall performance in the different windows. Damn, it might be a good EA already. I was gonna work on it later and try to fix it. Might not be broken. All right. More importantly, these windows are too small to mean anything. Okay. The EA fires 2.4 baskets per month. So a 1 month window holds 0 to 2 baskets. On-tester needs over 2. All right. Redo it with 6 months. 6 month windows. All right, this is the nice new feature. You can just click tab and it does it. All right, redo it with 6-month windows across the full range. Do I want 6-month windows? Thing is, I disagree. Like it's saying there, like 2 months is too small to mean anything. Completely disagree. If you have this many individual 2 months and put them together, all of a sudden it does mean something. So long as your tail risk isn't really high, because that's when it matters. So if like for example you run like a martingale or some sort of a grid trading system that could blow your entire account on 100 different windows, and performance is amazing on like 95 of them, but 5 of those windows you completely blow your account and they're like spread out, well then there's literally like you've skewed yourself into like thinking this is a really good strategy, but it's horrible. You're gonna lose your money. In this case, the strategy isn't like that. It's not like a martingale. Like the tail risk is not high at all. Drawdown is very low. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna say redo it with 3-month windows across. Might as well go with the full range, sure. Across the full range. I think that's like 2 years of data that I have. And the reason I have 2 years of data is because after Prime started about 2 years ago, I do have like Duca's copy and the other histo data thing. I'm actually downloading those ones. You can see that I have them pretty nice actually. So I have this calendar, the calendar app, because there's so much data. It's stupid how much data there is, like 100 gigabyte or something like that. And problem is it's throttled, so you don't just download it really quickly. What ends up happening is even if you have fast internet, they're not going to give you full bandwidth, so you can just download everything slow. So it's going to take forever. It'll take very, very many days. What I've done, or what I've downloaded so far, is 8,000, not ticks, I think it's CSV files. And to do is 18, and this has been like 2 weeks, but it's a lot of data. It's basically all the data. And then when I have all the data, then I can do much, much more sophisticated tests. And that's kind of the plan. And I need that for another project, which I won't get into now because it would just take forever. And let's stay focused. This is still running. This is cute. Like this, I don't know if cute is the word, but it's a nice design aesthetic that I have over here. These are the 3 data sources. You can see after Prime has the least amount of data always. And like I said, that's just because, they're kind of new. And then Duca's copy has, it goes back to 2016. I think sometimes it goes back to like 2010. Yeah, over here, for example, goes back to 2010. Or that's his data, not Duca's copy. Get the full name of it. Histogram? No, I don't think that's just. So this is for gold, by the way, XAU USD. And yeah, so I'm downloading too much data, to be fair. I am not going to I'm not using wheat. I don't think I'm going to use it. Might as well download. Why not? I just have all the data. This is fun. Okay. So this is running the way that it's supposed to, I think. Yes, it is. So it's another like really important thing to do when you're actually verifying that everything does in fact work is just check here. And this goes back to that issue I was telling you about. Remember I said sometimes the MCP, notice how it says 15 here, that's the middle of the month, 3/15. Next should be like 4/1 and then 4/15, like the start date. Because like I said, so remember I said earlier where, hold on, this, I said that sometimes the MCP will do a test automatically, fully automatically, but then the display is different. Now that's a problem because you can't verify, you can't see that it is in fact correct. You're running it with the correct configuration. In other words, the right symbol, the right date, the right setting for forward or no, the right fitness function like the optimization type, profit factor, those things. So that's a problem, and that's why you can't rely on this too much, even though I'm relying on it now because I think it worked now, showing you the correct dates. Also, I think it might be like it might not be true for all of them. Like some of them, like date, I've never had that issue. Modeling really is the only one where I've had this issue. Delay, I haven't really paid attention to it. Definitely some stuff could go wrong. And then here's another variable, like to keep in mind. What if it's actually just Claude made a mistake? Like maybe there's more than one path because there's different tools with the MCP. You have different calls that it can call. Maybe it called this path, which is just like a small quick version. It could have called the other one, which sets up the whole configuration. So those are all things that I want to think about as I'm building this skill. And yeah, so that's where my head is at. All right, I think it worked for real this time. Yes, we have all the data. Wrong button. I want to zoom in. All right, so this is a bunch of data that we have right now, and pretty useful because you have these forward tests that are overlapping. The periods are overlapping. Kind of feels like more data. There's definitely more testing. And we can see, okay, 800, 600, 180, 800, 900, those are all profitable in the beginning. Probably like a market regime that's useful for us. And then March, starting March 15th, so mid-March, was the first big loss. And then you just kept losing until September, where you were profitable in September, and then you're just profitable for the rest of the time. So you can see there's a clear pattern here with the way that the strategy works. Plus, 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 and then a bunch of minuses. So this is the bad regime. And then a bunch of pluses again. So this is something that this type of testing, our version, what I called it, of a walk forward test, is exactly what I want. These are the results that I want to get. And I want the skill. I want to be able to just say, like, all right, give me our version of the test. Boom, done. And I want to do that while I'm iterating on the EA. So while you're making an expert advisor, you don't want to sit there thinking about, let me do all this. So all this stuff that we just thought about, we just figured out. I say we, but really it's me. All the stuff that we just did, I want to save it. So that's what the next step is. I want to, okay, I want to create a skill called EA, which will have a bunch of sub skills. EA walk. Should I go with walk? This is the fun part. You get to name. Should I do dash walk? or just EA walk like this, or just, you know, take it too far, walk, you know, like the Asian walk, cooking. Let's just be professional. EA walk, bunch of sub skills. EA walk is a sub skill of the EA skill, which I have not created yet, which also only currently has one, or only has one skill, that is the /EA walk skill you're creating now. Okay, because I want to make sure that it's done correctly, I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna say first, before you actually create the skill, create a rough draft document, and show me. Ensure that the skill automatically triggers a wizard which asks me to set the duration of the windows. That's where it comes in. The windows, called windows of the windows, and the entire test. I should manually enter those numbers in. Okay, wait. I'll say this. Give suggestions, but allow for a manual entry of the window duration. All right, so the reason I want to do it this way is because what helps me a lot when I'm trying to create stuff is having kind of like you know, when you are writing physically, like with a pen, and then there's a word you don't know how to spell, and so you go online, you find the correct spelling, okay, and then you correctly spell it, and then you continue to write. Now you need to spell that same word again. Because you have it on the same page, you can just kind of cheat and look at the spelling, right? So what I want really for this wizard is for it to show me the format of how I should enter basically the duration. When I forget about this, because I'm going to continue to make new things, I forget quick, you know. I want it to just show me the format, so it gives me the suggestions. But I also don't want it to be locked in to specific ranges, like it has to be 3 months long, or it has to be 6 months long, or something like that. I want to be able to manually set. So it's going to give me suggestions, but it's going to give me the option to set. That's the whole point. Okay. That's pretty much it. All right. Now we just wait for it to work. Okay. Draft written. I don't know if I want to add like a UI, UX element to it and have it like look really nice, because that starts to make things complicated. Like when it's just a skill and there's no visualizer, then all of a sudden like everything runs really quickly and smoothly. If you do a visualizer, it still does, But then that's just a lot of extra kind of weight, on me. Like I have to create all this stuff, make sure it looks good. New problems for something that doesn't really add to the functionality, and you have to solve those problems as well. And I typically give up on visualizers. I'll show you an example of a visualizer, which I think is nice, which I didn't completely give up on, which is the Shoof Sand visualizer. Or sorry, just Shoof visualizer. That skill I was telling you about earlier, which lets me control stuff. Oh wait, because I'm not running it. I don't know if I can show it to you right now. I have to run a bunch of stuff, which probably best if we don't. I'll show you in another stream one of those days, because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna open source it. So I'll give it its own video. All right, this is done. I think. Okay, yeah, this is the draft, and let's go over it. See if it's good. My rough draft skill family, and the first sub skill EA walk. Why this exists? We just ran our version of a walk forward test by hand. 15 overlapping 3-month windows across the full after prime tick history. Cool. 42 pulse half driven. The result tabulated and averaged. It worked, and it took 40 tool calls of hand-driven in-writing log polling. Damn. So that's exactly what I want to automate. I didn't know it would take that many tool calls. I don't think they can all be automated, because some of them just need to happen. EA walk is that procedure frozen. Yes. The wizard makes two choices that actually change the answer: window length, total span. Correct. And everything downstream is mechanical. Yes. Deliberately not MT5's forward mode. MT5's forward mode only splits under optimization and gives one ISO as boundary. I don't even know what that means. Should I? I should. Probably something really silly, simple that I really should know what it means. What is OS in trading? OS out of sample. I guess IS is in sample. Okay. IS in sample. Okay. Wow. It is something really simple that I should know what it means. That's exactly the point. I don't want to have in sample, out of sample, in sample stuff going on. I want to have control. Okay. Makes sense. Gives an overlapping out of sample. Everyone does clean. Okay, makes sense. And oh, nice, gave me a little visualizer. That's exactly what I want. All right, the wizard. Okay, for a rough draft, this is really good. I could just run it, and then either way, I'm gonna have Fable look at it tomorrow and see if there's a better way to do everything. So I might as well just run it. I don't know why it's saying lower cases, no hyphens. Keep inheriting, now build. Might as well. EA. Wait, EA walk? Something like at run or re and then no hyphen. Whether the wizard could also ask deposit leverage. This is sometimes where it gets problematic. Fable doesn't really do this as much. It'll give suggestions, and then if I ignore the suggestion, it will think that I want it. And then when I say build it, it considers what's over here. So when you're building anything, whether it's EAs or other projects that have nothing to do with trading, this is something to watch out for. So it's very important to not do this, not click tab and then just run it. Be specific with what you want. So I'm going to say use the rough draft only to create the skill. Now the questions, the open questions, I'll answer those. You can answer them quickly. You don't need to sit there and explain things, especially if it got it right, like up here. But sometimes it's some important stuff. So let's go one by one. EA versus EA. Every existing skill is lowercase. Keep EA as you wrote, or lowercase. Either trigger is fine. This is house style. For one. Keep upper case. Here's the answers to the open. I'm gonna do number 8. I'm gonna do 8 open questions. That's not AQ questions. Number 8 open questions. Oh no. Supposed to click shift enter. Okay. Alright. Sub skill naming. EA walk as written. EA walk as written, or EA walk to match as round. Choose no hyphens. Use hyphens. Cool. Use hyphens or hyphenate? I feel like it's hyphen. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Should the wizard also ask deposit leverage? No. No. Don't ask anything else. Use pre-existing configuration. Configurations. I guess there's one config. Yeah, no, plural, because different tests will have different configurations. Cool. We made it number 4. Where do runs get stored? Nothing is persistent in the draft beyond CSV. Want a runs folder with the table saved per run. So walks are compared over time. It could get. Yeah. Yes. Save the runs in a folder. Oh wait, I think I skipped one. Yeah, I did skip one. I'll do this. I'll go from here, click shift enter, and it'll automatically do those things. And now we can do number 4. Step size. Locked at half a window, or offer 1 to 3 or 1 to 4 overlap as option. I don't know what that means. Locked at half a window, or offer 1/3. I don't even know. I'm gonna say use the same window half a month, starting from the first, then the middle of the months. Don't add random stuff. Okay, now. Yeah, that's problematic. I'll just retype it so it stays in the correct format. Alright, where the runs get stored. Save the runs in a folder. That's okay. Should EA walk be runnable without the wizard? Yes. Yes. The wizard is only, yes. Actually, I'll just say yes, it should. Yeah, let's go for it. Like I said, I'm gonna get Fable to check everything over. I go over everything again. So it's fine, you know, even if it isn't perfect, I just want it functional. Because once I have the functionality, then I can just tell Fable, go over everything, make sure that you preserve the behaviors and the functionality, you know, but just make it better. How make it better? How? I don't know, but it'll be better. It will be better. So creating both skills from the draft. Okay. So right now the EA skill, the main one, doesn't really do anything, but you know, I do have, like I said, kind of an idea of what I want. So hold on, go. EA new, create a new MQL file, runs the editor, so it's visible. So that's one thing that I really want. And EA run runs the EA backtest on the exact same preset configuration. Okay, let me explain what EA new is supposed to do, because I really want it to be very specific about it. And this comes directly from my experience, having made an EA like this already. Okay, we'll get that visible. Wrong zoom. So here's the kind of the problem that I ran into when I told it to create an EA and I said run the EA. I didn't see it. So I didn't see the code, and I didn't even know what the parameters were. So this is the first EA that I made, and it was just working. And I didn't question it. I was like, okay, run it, continue. Let's see what happens. By the time I finished making the EA and decided to go look at the parameters, it parameterized so much stuff and used so much language that I just wasn't using, and then it was confusing. I felt like I had to study this whole thing that was my idea to begin with, that I know exactly how it works because I made it, but I just don't know what all these extra parameters are. I don't know which ones, like it'll say ATR, but then ATR is used in different ways. I don't know which one is for which other, you know what I mean? So all that confusion because I didn't have the code file and I couldn't see the input parameters at the top. So I don't want that problem, which is why it's important that when you do create an EA, you see the code and you can very quickly modify it. So I've never done that with the MCP, but I think it's possible because Claude will already basically open files for you, or run programs, I mean, for you. So it shouldn't be a problem. Pairing the MCP with Claude is actually can be really powerful. Creating both skills from the draft with your 6 answers applied. Alright, here's something I want to add to this before it even goes away. There was a visualizer that I got. It was really nice. I just really like the format. I'll show you what I mean. I didn't tell it to do that. It just did it, and this was Opus, by the way. So here it is. I'll show you exactly what I mean. All right, we'll use this one. So this visualizer, you can see the price on the left side, and then you got the date at the bottom. And it went ahead and it created this entire chart based on the indicator that I was creating. And it's actually exactly what I wanted, but I didn't think of it this way. It just gave me this, and it gave me this information up here. So I really like this visualizer style. And I want that to be also frozen. It'll say freeze this thing as a skill. So I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to paste it into current session. And I'm going to ask this, I'm going to say first, this style, style of visualization, the way you displayed the data, yeah, just the way you display the data with a chart and with explanations is really nice. In addition to providing a chart, or sorry, providing a table of results for the walk, the EA walk, Oh no, I clicked enter instead of shift enter. It happens. The EA walk. Also generate a visualizer like this one that actually shows the results. Yeah, it actually shows the results. I have to re-add the thing. There we go. This can be really nice because then you can get the results and you can just have them as a visual. You know, instead of sitting there looking at the numbers and trying. And I like looking at the numbers, to be honest, but sometimes I just want to see the curves. So having both is an advantage. You can just see the curve while looking at the numbers even. I don't know exactly how it's going to do it because this is a different data or type of data. But the visual style, very clean, very minimal, very professional actually. You have like the top section and then the chart. I like that, and I want to make that a style moving on or moving forward with all of the different stuff that I add to the EA skill. An interesting thing to keep in mind is this was Claude, you know, taking the extra step and generating that visual. I didn't tell it to when I was working on that other indicator, which is why I think it will do a good job for others. Because if I was imposing my own kind of design style, then it would have to kind of, it's not trained on this new data. It would need in context learning. It would need like all this extra rules and stuff. But if it came up with this kind of design, it'll always do a good job. And the prime example of that is the same skill that I showed you earlier, the widget skills. So these different skills, you can see, are different colors, different background colors, different architectures. As you can see, is a big one. One of the things that Claude will always do is it will add this border on the left, and it looks very AI generated. People will say AI slop, okay, whatever. As long as it's working, you know, I'm the only one using this. So there's this style, like this border, and there's this whole architecture. There's like these buttons up here, okay? All of these node graphs that I have follow that style, just in different colors. And because of the fact that it's using these components, I think it works really well, even when you're using Claude, or sorry, Opus. So Opus 4.7, I think 6 or 7 was the one that I actually used. And now with Fable, it's a lot better, and you don't really have to worry. Like, actually, you don't have to worry about these problems anymore. But I think it does speak to how to optimize this high-performing one, Fable, because it worked on the lesser model, probably works on the higher-end model, and then when you go into like more sophisticated projects, go with the things that it's already trained on, and you'll just get better results, less bugs, and probably more capability. You can go for even bigger projects, really maximize your use. All right, matplotlib. So that's what I've heard about that before from a programmer who I hired, and he was telling me this is the way to do it. Python. Zoom. Why aren't you zooming? There we go. Looks nice, not bad. But more importantly, is it accurate? That's the most important thing. Is it accurate? All right, so that is a pretty fair representation of what's going on, and this is the overlap period. And you have blue and red. Why blue? Why not green? That green should have been the color. And then it went with I told it to make it golden. Okay, so you got fitness on tester per basket T statistics, and then net P&L. Should I keep it? I feel like just net P&L is fine, but at the same time, like these could be useful depending on the function that you're using. Like for example, if you're trying to optimize for drawdown, you want to see which one has the best drawdown. We'll keep it, but I will replace blue with green. Okay, so now I'm just gonna say like quick replace blue with green for the bars. Keep using shades, so shades of green instead of blue. You didn't see that part, but that's what that looks like. So I'm gonna say also lock it in. Lock it in. Okay, that's nice. And you know what's also interesting or cool is the fact that it's like I said earlier, the data, the way that it looks, you have like the winners, it's winning over here, winning. Then this out of sample period you lose, and then back to the in sample period you continue to win and win. So it'll highlight the bad part, which is very, risk mitigate oriented, which is nice. It's exactly what you want to do as a trader. So it just kind of decided that on its own. I don't know why on my screen, I think you can see it. Like it will freeze. Whoa, as soon as I stopped freezing, but it was freezing earlier. But it's not freezing on for you, so that's good. Ooh. I love it. Green, green, green. If I add black, it's basically my flag. I guess there is black already. Alright, this is a little annoying. The fact that the text isn't clear. So, I mean, Fable's a lot better at these things, so I'm just gonna leave it for later. I'm gonna leave it for tomorrow. In the meantime, I think the EA walk skill is done. So I'm gonna just actually run it and see what happens. Because I want to see like the wizard work. All right, pre-flight is already satisfied. Okay, nice. Now we have the wizard. What does it say? Full track history. I think it found the amount of data, which is nice. I have 24 months worth of data. Last 12 months, last 18 months. I'm going to do last 12 months. Submit. Wait, did it divide? I think it always locks into 3 months. That's something I want to modify because I don't want to always be locked into 3 months. What if I'm testing like a scalping strategy? I don't need 3 months every single time, especially for this type of walk forward test. The overlap walk forward test, that's what I'm going to name it. Might as well just let it run, just see what happens. Okay, so here, what's going on now is it's just going to continue to run. Ooh, okay, here's the thing. So the MCP does this, and this is a problem. It will create a new chart at will. Just create a new chart. Okay. So every time you run a test, it just creates new chart. And then you hit the limit, which I believe is 96. Why 96? I don't know. But it'll hit that limit. And then it runs into an error where it's like, for some reason, MT5 won't let you. The reason it won't let you is because you just created so many different charts, kept them all, and now you hit the limit. So I need to add a rule is remove the chart after you've created it, so you don't have to sit there and manually remove everything yourself. Just so you know, the process of manually removing everything yourself, which I've done before, you go like this, tile window, and then you go one by one. Click on X, just X, like this. Closing all manually. You can move them around, which is fun. Okay, so now let's just go back. Don't necessarily need it to be done. I can just click. Actually, let's let it run, just to make sure that we are good. Already done. Already done. So yes, because it was a 12-month period. Wait, there's supposed to be 4, not 3. Wait, it was a 6-month. 6-month window. But I'm pretty sure I selected 12-month. Last 12 months. Last 12 months. And 6-month walk. Oh. So in the 12 months, it did a 6-month and then 6-month and then 6-month. Makes sense. Okay, so now I'm gonna add those 2 things that I need, which is one. Well, first I'm gonna say modify EA EA walk. Oh my god, the problem. Do I need to click Shift Enter? No. Modify the EA walk skill to behave like this. Number 1. After a chart is generated for the test, remove it. Don't leave stray charts, especially since we're generating so many charts. I feel like the more advanced that these large language models get, the better the performance when you give it context. So if this was like an old GPT, an old video that I made where I say don't pollute the chain of thought, basically don't put too much stuff in, because it'll cause errors and bugs and this kind of stuff because it'll try to do this stuff, it'll try to do that stuff. Now, actually, it's kind of like the reverse of that. The more context you give it, it's as if it goes and, even though it's only an extrapolation machine, it's as if it goes and it gets like the purpose. It's like, okay, this is the purpose. That's why we're doing this thing. It makes sense. So that's why I'm breaking all of the rules that I had before. And that's why I added that. Okay, number 2. What was number 2 again? After I pretty sure I had a really good number. Oh yeah, I wanted to change the walk duration as well. The wizard should have 2 questions, not just 1. Keep the existing duration pop up, but add another for the duration of each walk. The suggestions should show the calculations show the calculation for divisible, like divide divisibility for ability, and how many bars you get, how many months, how many walks you get, how many walks you'll get from choosing any of the suggested durations. Walk durations based on the total duration. Wow, that was a lot longer than I thought this would be. But that's what I want. Let me just review, make sure I got it correct. The wizard should have 2 questions, not just 1. Keep the existing duration pop-up, but add another for the duration of each walk. The suggestions should show the calculation for 1 for, not 2 for. The calculations for divisibility. I'm just gonna do this because there is no add. How many walks you'll get from choosing any of the suggested walk durations based on total duration. That's exactly what I want. So if it doesn't understand what I mean by divisibility, or if I don't understand what I mean by divisibility, that's what I mean, and it has a lot to do with that word, I'm certain. So let's go. I think I'm gonna manually close all these and then just come back later and test it properly. So, you know, I can do some of the work too. All right, so those actually already existed or supposed to exist already. And strategy tester, what I want to do is I want to actually choose the same settings that I would be running with. And delay, I'm going to add delay. I'm going to make it 1,000. Try to account for, you know, slippage and latency as much as you can. Deposit is supposed to be 1,000, not 10,000. And now I'm testing for, does it actually maintain the configuration? So I want this to be configured once, and then once it's set and then I run EA walk shouldn't go in and just change things at will. This is the settings. I took the time to choose them, you know. Let's not mess it up. That's what I want to test for now. Okay. Should be done. Yes, it is. Before running that test that I just said I would run, I'm just gonna ask quick. Okay, here's the thing. When I click enter, it shouldn't just go in. It should select. Actually, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna risk it. All right, quick. I just configured my backtest settings, and EA walk is not supposed to change my configuration. I chose $1,000 initial balance and 400 leverage, among other. Answer this only. Answer this, but don't make any changes yet. Does the EA walk change my configuration if I run it? Let's find out. Does it change my configuration? It says no, I'm gonna run it. It says yes, it would overwrite them. The skill says deposit level are inherited, but there's no mechanism behind that. I'm talking about. I'm gonna change this mechanism behind that claim. EA walk writes a complete tester block based on these. Running an ini also applies. Nothing reads your current config. Inherit was written. Okay, so easy fix, I think. Modify it. I think we know what we're talking about. Modify it to always read the existing config and use it. Never change a configuration. A never change configuration. I'll just say a config and go with it. Okay, I don't need to think about it too much. The MCP changes everything. I think it's been out for like months at least. I just didn't know about it until now, which is not cool. I should have known about it because it changes everything. It's really fun now to create an expert advisor without having to deal with any bugs. When I say any bugs, I mean like pretty much no bugs, like not bugs, no errors, no compilation errors. So if you watch any of the old videos, you know, most of the videos are just me talking about how do you debug, or not even debug, how do you compile, basically. How do you get to the point where it compiles correctly? Which was the main problem with kind of the older models. Now that's almost never a problem. It's so good at syntax and coding that it's not a problem. The only problem, you still get bugs, but no errors. So the EA runs, just doesn't run exactly the way you want it to, and then you have to tweak it. It's also so much faster now. Used to wait like 15 minutes just to get something that ends up still having errors. Now, whenever you ask it to do anything, it'll take like 5 minutes. It'll give you the answer with no errors. Sometimes it takes even less, like just 3 minutes. Alright, saying you're right, the inherit was never implied or implemented. Oh, I think when I was asked the question earlier, I just answered incorrectly here, where it said use the same window. No, don't ask anything else. Use pre-existing configuration. Where's the questions? Oh, the questions are in the draft. And let me get the right view. Here, should the wizard also ask deposit leverage timeframe or keep inheriting them silently from the EA's existing config? Draft assumes inherit. Okay, that's the thing. So inherit was never set up. So it just had like a config, and then it inherits that config not from my MT5, from wherever else it gets it, which I think is from an old EA that I had, and then it made it inherit that, or an old decision.md or memory.md, like one of those, which is the exact reason we're building this. Is what I'm talking about. See, this is the kind of stuff that you deal with if you don't have clear algorithmic processes that tell it exactly do this is the rule, and then exactly do that, and then you can think about creating your algorithm as opposed to saying they're thinking about what's going wrong. Okay, let's see. My earlier runs today already wrote inputs into the persisted tester state. That predates the fix, and I'm not touching it. Check your input set before the next run. Alright, perfect. Now we can run it the way that it's... This might just be the result. And I think for today, you know, this might be the only skill that I add to the EA skill. I'll open source tomorrow, or the next day I do a stream, because I do want to get stable on it to make sure that everything is good before I actually do open source and like post it. Okay, so let's see what the results look like, but first, is it working? I think it is. Settings 1005. Starting on 5? I don't see it jumping around, so I don't see it really working right now. Oh, the wizard, of course. Q one of 2. There's 2 questions always. That's good. And they are, should I do last 12 months or 18 months? This time, let's do much more granular test, but still not use the full 24. So I'll go with 18 months. I should get a question 2. Give me a question 2. It'll give me the second question, don't worry. If it doesn't, literally just gonna wait until tomorrow for Fable because it knows it's supposed to give me question 2. Span locked. Gonna be confirmed. I wrote none. There we go. Okay, good. Now I'm gonna go with like a proper strange one. This is like a robustness test. I'm gonna say the duration is going to be 30 or 40 days. 40 days per window. Goes completely outside of the thing. Let's see, does it work or does it not? If it works, we're done. I actually did it. If it doesn't, it's fine, you know, we can still fix it. But yeah. It'll be a little difficult to verify because, you know, sitting there trying to check the actual date as they run really quickly and like do the math. So I'm not gonna go too deep into making sure it works and everything. But I will look at that result, the visualizer result that I get, and I'll make sure that everything is coherent, makes sense. So that's the plan right now. Running. You can check the bottom right. Hold on. Check here. If this, oh, it happened. It went red. I didn't click it. So now you know it's working. Now the thing is, like, if I were to go over here on backtest and look at the data, hold on, remove this, and I look at the data, and I think most people watching this video or stream already know what all this means because it's pretty niche. But if you go over here and you look at all this data, you have a lot of data, you have access to all this. But if you just get the results, then you lose a lot of this data. So what I want to do is I want to create another skill later which preserves all of this data in a very, very cheap way. I don't want to create a bunch of folders and have too much logs, which MT5 tends to do. What I want to do is I want to set it up so that it's very easy to access your data using Cloud. So basically, you'll have a folder, you'll have all this data, and then that data can be used for different tests as well. But I don't want to go too deep into the testing because I have another app that I'm working on that uses GPU instead of CPU, which is where you go really deep. This is supposed to just be deep enough so that when you do create your expert advisor, you can very quickly get a pretty good analysis so that you can make an informed next decision on how you're going to change the mechanics of or the logic of the expert advisor. I'll go. Okay. So it's stressful to not know like where you are in the process and it doesn't tell you because I don't know if it's working or not. Oh, I think selected W1. So that's, I know where I am now. I'm on window 3. Good. Don't know why it's frozen though. I literally just unfroze as soon as I said I don't know why it's frozen. It's finishing quickly. I think it's just when it finishes, it needs to like interpret the data, which is what actually takes some time. think I definitely need a better thumbnail and title. It was my first stream, so I just went ahead and typed it really quickly, just to see if it worked or not. Then I really got into it. Yeah, I should do some more work on setting up the streaming thing long term while this runs. Talk about it while it runs, not do the work now. The auto tester, the other thing that I wanted to work on is a solution to the fact that you're stuck on this. You're stuck basically over here with these agents, which is your CPU cores. You know, you got 16 cores. If you could use your GPU instead of the CPU, which, you know, on MT5 you can't, but in general, like, you know, you can use your CPU's cores. Then you have access to thousands, depending on your GPU. It can go from like 4,000 cores easy. You don't have to have a super expensive GPU for that. And if you do have a super expensive GPU, you get like 10,000 cores. They clock in at a lot slower. Like this, like 3.8 gigahertz speed. The GPU cores are like 1 point something, but still, you know, go from 16 to like 4,800 or something that I have on my GPU. That's next level, because then you can do all those walk forward tests simultaneously, immediately, just done. You know, we're still waiting on the testing to happen because, you know, we're using the CPU and the CPU is slow for these sorts of things. Depending on like the type of task, by the way, depending on the processes, so whatever program you're running, if you have like a really complicated process, then you need the CPU because the CPU can literally just do more stuff. But if it's a simple thing, which this, by the way, is considered simple, you're just running a bunch of math, like a giant calculation, like a calculator can do it, literally. GPU is more than capable. And actually, GPU is designed for this kind of parallel, like doing a bunch of things at the same time, because they're designed for screens. Like that's what the screen is. It's a bunch of little tiny calculations happening, or I guess not calculation. Just each pixel needs to change, and then there's calculations for that, like hex code or RGB codes, and that's, you know, more than enough. So I don't know why MT5 doesn't, or meta quotes doesn't do that for MT5. Maybe that's going to be MT6. Who knows? Window 10. How many windows did I? Oh, I just said 40. Like per window, but I didn't say how many windows it is. Floor, tail, 6 days uncovered. It's 26 walks, so 26 windows. How many it's going to be? I'm actually very curious to see what the results are because this expert advisor, I did try. It's not like I just made it and then, you know, moved on so I can make this and use it for this. No, I did try to actually make a profitable EA. And it's the second attempt using Fable. I know this is, sounds like what? Like it's been out, Fable has been out, actually using CLUD in general. But I've been working on something completely different this whole time that I haven't really spent much time on. On creating EAs with this workflow. That's why I didn't even know the MCP existed. A couple of days ago, I found out that the MCP exists. And then I just thought, I was like, does that mean that I can just make Fable do everything? I tried and it does in fact mean you can get Fable to do anything. And then I ran out of tokens because I was building other things. now here we are. We can still use Opus though. Opus 5, I find that a lot of times with when it comes to UI stuff, it does the same. It's just the same as Fable. But then with really long processes, it's exactly what everyone says about it. It's true. With really long processes, if you don't have like a good workflow, a good structure of this is the rules, this is the document, this is everything, it does not compete with Fable. I don't know why the benchmarks are giving it ratings like it's better than Fable. It's not, at least from my experience. I watched some tests. I really like watching those videos where people test, like they give it the same prompt and then it'll see that what's the result here, what's the result over there. And I saw that Opus 5 is consistently getting better results than Fable. So maybe for general tasks, it does win, but for my tasks, it doesn't. Okay, we're at window 14. I think that's going to be it for today. I'll hold off on creating the next sub skill until I'm actually streaming again, so that you guys can see everything, and then I'll put maybe a link to these live streams, or maybe clip them into shorts and put them into the GitHub repo even, so that people know exactly what's going on. Speaking of which, let me talk more about the purpose of this walk forward type, overlapping walk forward type tests. So when you're limited on data, so here's the problem with getting data from Dukascopy or getting data from other places, other sources. When you use data that isn't from your broker, the spreads are just naturally going to be different, and the data is not representative of what would happen when you use your broker. So if you use your broker, even if it's like worse data, it's always going to be a little bit better, even when there's a gap. And I had an experience with that with gold. I was mid trade with gold, and then it just froze with my broker. And then I went on to YouTube and I looked for like XAU USD live. I was like, this is strange. Nothing else is frozen. And then on that, like I just clicked the first one, it was still moving. It looked the same as mine, but it continued to move. And then I went and I really quickly messaged the broker, customer service, and I really love this broker because you can do that. They're snappy. All brokers have these issues, by the way. So if you're thinking that's a bad broker, no. I messaged them really quickly. They said, yes, we're working on it already. Sorry, That's why I like this broker. And so that in the data would be a gap. Now you would think, if you didn't have this experience, no, there's gaps in the data. It's bad data. But no, actually, it's representative data, representative of reality. Like this is the reality of the situation. And so you want to use your broker's data. Now, what if your broker doesn't have that much data? You do this walk forward, overlap walk forward test, and you just kind of get more scenarios, because you can run the exact same test, just start from a different date depending on the strategy, and get a completely different result. Some strategies, like moving average crossover type of strategies, where based on the moving average you enter and exit, you don't get more data, and this type of test literally does absolutely nothing for you, because irrespective of when you start and when you stop, the crossing, like when price crosses the moving average, is just going to be the same. But if it's like a grid strategy or a martingale strategy or one of those sorts of strategies, what you end up with is a situation where you start completely determines the outcome. And so you can literally start like 2 days later and get a completely different result. So that's where this test comes in and becomes extremely useful. Yeah, that should definitely be clipped into a video. Alright, we're at W19, window 19. Hmm. 26. Couple more. What I really want to see is the visualizer that comes out. Meantime, I guess we could kind of cheat and look over here. Alright, so that wasn't a very good trade. Or a month, I guess, or 40 days. Is it 40 days? 219, 323. Oh, I'm out of light. Do have a charger, hold on. Night mode. We are in night mode, officially. Alright, we'll see if this light lasts this time. And where are we at? Why does it seem like this isn't moving? W22. I'm curious to see if the data looks the same, where you get a situation where it's the same thing, like at the beginning, you're profitable, the middle, where you're outside of the regime, you're not, and then in the end, again, you're profitable. And then I'll end up actually working on the EA, but that's going to be a different stream where I focus purely on the EA after I've set up this entire tool. Once this EA skill is completely set up, then I can use it to work on the EA faster than I otherwise would. And I could kind of structure my workflow so that I can work on other EAs very easily. So far, there's been 2. So 2 EAs that I've done. I got this one, which is a complete failure, low block. And this one, which is the current one, which is kind of nice. Alright, we are at W24. We're so close. This is just like a waiting thing. Where once we get some live stream viewers, we can talk. In the meantime, no views. Subscribe if you actually made it this far and you watched the video. Hit that like button, subscribe. Do it for the free open source tool. Okay, 25. We're this close, almost done. We'll see the results and then we'll call it a day. Oh, still on the Zoom. I also really want to test the stream deck button. Like, does clicking it actually stop the stream? Because I set it up to start the stream, but not to stop it, so we'll see. 26. We're almost done. Finally. Let me know, by the way, if somebody watched and made it to almost the end of the stream, what you want to be in the tool, because I will add it. And even if I don't, by the way, since it's open source, you could just add it yourself. But if you want me to do that, then let me know. Leave a comment and say, this would be a cool feature. Can you add it? And I'll let you know if it fits the kind of the purpose of the skill. I'll add it for sure. If it really doesn't, and it just doesn't make sense, or breaks something else, then I'll let you know, and I'll let you know why as well. So whatever comes to mind when it comes to like the EA creator tool, let me know what's something that you struggle with when you're creating an EA and when you're using the MCP specifically, because at the end of the day, this is just rules for the MCP. So you have the MCP, which is like an open pipeline, you could say, between Claude and MT5. So you have the connections established. It's just too random. Like you got a bunch of different tools that you can use or not. You can use them or not. And every time you trigger the MCP, Claude has to sit there and figure out, okay, this exists, that exists, which one do I use to do whatever? And then it goes ahead and it will, waste tokens, essentially do everything or do something incorrectly. So if you just have like a mechanism, then you get everything done correctly. I got a peek at this, so I know it looks cool. Here we go. Here it is. This is the visualized. This is the moment. Nice. Oh. Interesting. So it did survive. So this is why you want to do this sort of testing. When you test, when you test kind of in between with overlapping, starting from different times, well, then the amount of exposure you get per market regime changes. So it looks a little different, doesn't it? Another thing to keep in mind is I think this range from here all the way over to here is that same middle range. So it's not like we didn't run the exact same time period, right? But this didn't exist before. So now it does. And then also this over here, this little one, got this one window right here. See window 17. Yeah, that definitely needs to be figured. I couldn't even see that it's 17. Oh. I guess you could. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. That's something new as well. So no, it's definitely useful. You're getting somewhere with data. Okay, EA walk mechanism and function has been fully created, or mechanism is function. Mechanism and visualization and like showing you the data has been created. And yeah, we'll pause here. Stop this stream over here. If you're interested in this tool, I'm gonna leave it in the description, the link to my GitHub repo. And at the end of this series, actually, what I'm going to do is just show you how you can install it. So thanks for watching. If you made it this far, leave a like, subscribe. Most importantly, let me know what you want to see, because I will actually work on the things you want me to work on. And yeah, happy trading. Good luck. Thank you and goodbye. Let's test this button now.